Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Welcome to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner, professional, founder, and managing member of Silverman & Associates, serving Tucson and the surrounding area. Glad you decided to join us on today's show. And Mark, as always, it's good to be with you.
I'm always happy to be here, Ron. It's been a great start of the year so far. Hope everyone's doing well and enjoying the tremendous weather that we've had recently.
520-333-7601 is your number to call or text if you prefer to do that. That is 520-333-7601. 520-333-7601. We'll give you that number again later on. It might be a good idea to go ahead and write it down because it's very important to reach out and get in touch with Mark. Mark, some people are clinging to certain ideas that give them a sense of false hope about their retirement, maybe a sense of false security. Explain the faulty thinking that goes along with some of these thoughts. Number one here, the mindset that you'll be ready to retire once you hit a certain number in your savings. And that's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, and everybody has a different number. So it really depends on, one, what age you're going to retire. Obviously we have to project what your life expectancy is. If you're married, both of you and your spouse's life expectancy, what you're going to be doing in retirement. So what kind of money you're going to need. And those sorts of things. So everybody's number is totally different. That's why everybody needs a plan. You can't just say, well, once I get to 500,000 or once I hit $1 million and I'm ready to retire. It doesn't work like that. Again, everybody's number is different. I can tell you people that are retiring in their early 60s, if they're living to their early 90s, you're going to need more than $1 million in savings unless you have a huge pension and Social Security that's going to be covering all those expenses. But typically those numbers are going to be even larger than that. So it just depends, and you need an increasing income too, which most people don't think about as well.
Well, everybody's situation is unique. And, as you've said so many times, people have different lifestyles, and you consider all of that and take all those things into account when you're helping someone put together a plan. We're talking about false hope on today's show. And how about the belief that your income needs will drastically go down once you retire? Not necessarily the case.
No, not at all. They do say, we've been told that some people need about 70 to 80% of your working income in retirement. Sometimes that's true. I can tell you other times people need just as much income in retirement as they needed in their working years. And in some rare cases, we've seen people actually spend more in retirement than they did spend when they were working. So again, everybody's situation is different. It really depends on what you plan on doing in retirement and what that might cost. And then it also depends on how long you're going to be retired for. The longer you're going to be retired for, the more income you're going to need because of what we call inflation. And so that income needs to be increasing to cover those costs.
Mark, I know a lot of people out there are working on the assumption that they're going to get an inheritance at some point that'll make up for any kind of shortfall they have in their own savings plan. And sometimes that happens, but sometimes not.
Well, and that's the problem with inheritances, and we'll take those in consideration as we're doing our planning. But the problem bit is, you don't know when you're going to get it, so we can't really count on it in a certain year. And two, we don't know how much you're going to get, so that makes it very difficult too. And so it's, like I said, it's good to know about those certain things, but again, it's really hard to build that into a plan without knowing a specific date and amount going forward.
A lot of folks hold some false hope, and they have maybe a false sense of security and are assuming things that may not actually happen. The notion that, I guess this is probably the most common of all, Mark, you can tell me, the notion that you'll just figure out how to make it work in retirement because you can cut your spending way down if you have to. How many people tell you that?
It's easier said than done. But you need to have this figured out before you retire. And we do plans for people that are already retired. And we've actually been able to save a few people where they were spending too much. And we showed them that if they continued spending like they were, that they were going to be running out of money. And, when you run out of money at age 85 and you're still alive, that's a problem because you can't just go out and get a job to make up for that. And so you physically might not be able to, or you might not be able to get a job. But, just trying to figure it out, after the fact is bad advice. You want to make sure before you leave your job, before you, sign papers on how you're going to take your pension or Social Security or whatever it might be, that you have a plan in place. Yes, things will change. And we know that, but you need to have the basics figured out beforehand and have a solid plan of how things are going to work before you actually, quit your day job, if you will.
And here's a big mistake that you can make, and a lot of people make it, assuming that the income estimate on your 401k statement is actually accurate.
Well, as far as the income statements, they'll show you like a payout percentage on a 401k of how much you have in there. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed. And so, there's a big difference there. And as far as safe withdrawal rates, we've talked about the 4% rule where you can take 4% out and you'll never run out of money. And that's been debunked several years ago. That was written when interest rates were a lot higher. That number now is closer to like 2.8%. And so, you can't really count on that because people are living longer and interest rates are low. So with those two things going on, you not necessarily can take out, 4% or even 5% withdrawal rate. Those in some cases are not sustainable. So it's important that you have a solid plan and have realistic numbers based on, current market conditions and current interest rates and those sorts of things, and making sure that, again, the day that you decide you want to retire, you're able to retire. And yes, again, like I said before, things will change, but you want to make sure that you're doing so with all the information and in the most prudent way possible.
Sad to say, there are lots of people in our audience today who are living on false hope and assuming that certain things are going to happen that might not happen at all. If they want to get in touch with you and come in for a conversation and to get a reassessment of their situation, what do you have to offer those folks?
Sure. So whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your opportunity to come in and have a conversation with me. I don't pawn you off on somebody else, which is done here in my office to go through this process, and we call it the financial physical. And I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. This is far different than all the other radio shows on this station. Rather, we're going to discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. This is a great way to start off the new year. So please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Here's that all-important number, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. You can call or text, and that'll put you in touch with Mark Silverman at Silverman & Associates in Tucson. 520-333-7601. One more time, that is 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Mark Silverman, the founder and the managing member at Silverman & Associates. That's 520-333-7601. You can call or text. More coming up on today's show, Saving with Silverman, in just a moment.
At Silverman & Associates, we understand that life can be expensive. There are bills to pay, and you might have loved ones you want to look after. With all those extra expenses, it's easy to neglect your own financial health. We want to make sure you'll be well cared for when the time comes. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Thank you so much for listening to Saving with Silverman today. My name is Ryan Stutz. I get an opportunity to hang out for an hour with Mark Silverman, your certified financial planner professional at Silverman and Associates. 520-333-7601 is your number to call to get in touch with Mark. 520-333-7601. You can call or text if you like. Mark, I know that lots of times, I know you enjoy your job all the time and you enjoy helping people, but some of the most emotional moments for you and your clients certainly comes when there is the death of a spouse. And when a new client comes to you, whether it's a man or a woman, right after losing a spouse, what are they typically most concerned about?
Well, I think there's lots of different things. And, again, I love what I do, but this is one of the more challenging things. But unfortunately, in my opinion, this is probably where clients need us the most, is through the tougher times. And we want to be there for our clients in the best way possible and help them through their times of grief. So there's lots of different things. Immediately when somebody loses somebody, decisions have to be made. A lot of times it has to do with, the insurances. How do they file to get the money, if they need that to pay certain things, maybe burial, et cetera, whatever it might be. But in certain cases, what do they do going forward? There's going to be a reduction in income. Maybe they did have a pension. Maybe they no longer get the pension because there wasn't a survivor benefit, or they get a reduced amount that was chosen. But certainly Social Security, because they were probably receiving 2 Social Securities, now they're going to only get 1. So there's going to be a reduction in income there. So what do they do going forward? Because even though there's only one person instead of 2, your income doesn't drop by 50%. They're going to still need relatively the same income. And in some cases, they might need more because they might want to start traveling and doing some other stuff too if they're able. But, there's lots of different things. What's the tax situation going to be? Should the investments, do they need to be adjusted now that the situation's changed? There's lots of different things that can happen. But again, we deal with this, more times than we like. But again, like I said earlier, this is really where we can really add value and be there for them and help them in the best possible way and give them the right advice and be there and listen to them and try to help them guide through these certain tough situations.
I know that you can certainly help them with their immediate challenges, the things that need to be dealt with right away, and certainly on a long-term basis as well. Tell us a story, if you would, about a widowed spouse who was left in a very difficult financial position because of poor planning.
Well, we have a case right now. In fact, we've dealt with this, it seems like a lot. We've had a few clients pass away recently. But we had one situation where the husband actually had a pension, but he never had a survivor benefit. And so we had done some planning, but there was a reduction in income. And if I had been involved initially, I would have had them take a survivor benefit to maximize that so that income wouldn't be reduced. But we have to make up that income. And then again, like I said earlier, we have to make up the Social Security that they were getting, because he was getting his Social Security and then she was getting half of his benefit. And in this case, now she gets his benefit, but she loses her benefit. So in that case, we have to figure out how we're going to replicate that income, which we've done by adjusting some of the investments and creating more income from their investable assets. So the good news is she's going to be okay. It's a tough time. It's never a good time, but hopefully we've added some less stress and we're able to be there in times of need for our clients. And again, that's what we're here for.
Okay, Mark, now the other extreme. On the other hand, how about a widowed spouse who was left in a very solid financial position because of good financial planning? Maybe we can use one of your clients here where you did the planning for them.
Yeah, so we have a situation, client that had passed away about 6 months ago. And in that case, they had been working with me all along, and we were able to do some planning, and we had we put some income streams in place that were going to last both of their life expectancies. So there was no reduction in income. We did have to, make some changes because there was some insurances and things like that, and we got that money reallocated and repositioned. And so it was as smooth as possible. Obviously, it's never smooth when you lose somebody, but on the financial side, making that transition as easy as possible. It's one less thing to worry about.
I know that there are folks out there right now who may not have lost a spouse, certainly, because that is one of the toughest situations ever, but are thinking about the future and, what if at some point most of us are going to have to deal with that kind of thing. What do you have to offer those folks who make that initial phone call and decide to come in for a visit with you?
Sure. Just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process. And like Ron mentioned, we call it the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we are going to address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And I can tell you, if you're working with somebody at one of the brokerage firms, wirehouses, banks, even somebody at an insurance salesperson, they do not have a fiduciary responsibility on all of your money. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who've saved at least $250,000. And as I'm sure you're aware by now, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We do try our best to help everyone, however, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. Mark Silverman is the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates in Tucson and can certainly help you. He's helped so many individuals and couples and families all over the area. 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call that number or text. You can get on the calendar, and before you know it, you'll be sitting face-to-face talking with Mark, and there will be no obligation from that conversation at all. It's not going to cost you anything, so why not get a lot more information than you had when you walked in, for certain. At 520-333-7601, that's your number to call, or if you prefer, send a text and just leave your contact information. A member of Mark's team will get back with you as early as possible. This is Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman. You're listening to Saving with Silverman, and there's more in a moment.
Do you ever feel like you need Superman to help you with your financial crisis?
I've got you.
You've got me. Who's got you?
Well, we're not superheroes, but we can save the day when it comes to your finances. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, and you can go to savingwithsilverman.com if you'd like to find out more about Mark and his business, savingwithsilverman.com. Let's talk about some classic pre-retiree mistakes. We all make mistakes from time to time, but we're talking about financial errors here that a lot of people make and then regret them later. Maybe you can give us some examples of people you've seen make these mistakes, Mark, and describe the consequences. In other words, what happened to them. A lot of people invest at age 59 exactly the same way that they invested at 39. Have you seen cases of this?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because a lot of people, and the classic example I'll give is I have a client that we started working with. It's been about probably about 7 years now. And they were working with a broker here in town, somebody that I actually used to work with in my previous place. But they had been working with this broker for over 20 years. And when I went and looked at their statement, and he was 81 at the time, it said aggressive growth on his statement. And I said, "You're aggressive growth?" He goes, "No, I'm not." I said, "Well, that's what your statement says," because the problem was when he started working with this other advisor, they had done a risk profile, but they never updated it.
Wow.
And so, people's investment horizons change and their risk tolerances change. So we will update those periodically because what typically happens is when somebody's investing, they're typically more aggressive. And then as time goes on, when they get closer to retirement and even in retirement, they tend to become more conservative. And that's not everybody, but typically that's what happens. And so you need to be working with someone who's going to, or if you're doing it yourself, you need to be adjusting your investments to match your current risk tolerance, your current risk preference, and to make sure that you're still going to be investing appropriately to keep you on track for your goals. And too many people aren't doing that. And certainly there's advisors out there that aren't doing that as well.
Mark, there are so many mistakes that you can make and so many things to be considered when it comes to Social Security. Give us an example of someone who started Social Security without a plan or a strategy and then lived to regret it.
Sure. A lot of people don't really understand how Social Security works. Yes, there are some things that you can do, and there's some certain strategies. We have software that we'll run with clients and show them, because when it comes down to it, most people don't have a pension, including myself. And so the only pension that you really have is Social Security. So why not try to maximize that the best possible way for you and your spouse if you're married? And too many people don't do that, or they'll call the office, the Social Security Administration, and ask them questions. Well, they don't give advice there. They'll just tell you you tell them if you want to take it or not. That's about it. They don't really give you advice. And so many people don't have all the information that they just make a rash decision, which isn't in their best interest. Like I said, we have software that we can show people what's the best way to maximize their Social Security, but it's important that you make the right decision regarding it.
Okay, how about focusing on tax preparation, but not tax planning?
And there's a big difference between tax preparation and tax planning. Tax preparation is done typically by your CPA. And if you don't have a CPA, some people use TurboTax or one of those things. That's tax preparation. Tax planning is really making investment decisions or making financial decisions to minimize taxes as much as possible. It's not saying you're not paying taxes, but it's trying to minimize what you owe legally. And so we do that here in the office as far as tax planning, helping people make decisions. Should you take money from this account or that account? What's the most tax advantageous way of doing those sorts of things, or doing partial Roth conversions? There's lots of different strategies that are out there, but that's what we do here in the office is tax planning, and that's very important. It's different than tax preparation.
520-333-7601, your number to call or text, and you can go ahead and do that right now if you like. You don't even have to wait until the end of the show. 520-333-7601. It's just important to go ahead and get on the calendar. You can come in the next couple of weeks and sit down and have a conversation with Mark Silverman, much like the conversation we're having right now, except it will be about your specific situation. Other classic pre-retiree mistakes that people make would be assuming that most of your retirement health care needs will be covered by Medicare. I can see how that could get someone in very serious trouble.
Yeah, I think most people hopefully realize that, long-term care and that sort of thing is not covered by Medicare. In fact, there's a lot of expenses that aren't covered by Medicare. People that are already receiving Medicare certainly understand that. But it's having figuring out what the strategy is going to be going forward for healthcare, and what's not covered by Medicare or a supplement or something like that. And so a lot of people don't have a strategy in place, and there's lots of different things out there. And if you do some planning regarding it, you can make some better decisions as far as addressing how you're going to handle those sorts of things, rather than just dealing with it when that time arises. So again, it's all part of planning.
Some people, when they get close to retirement, say in their 50s anyway, or late 50s, maybe even 60, decide that they haven't done as well as they would like in preparing for retirement and haven't saved as much as they would like, and then they take on additional risk in their portfolios trying to make up for lost time, and sometimes that doesn't turn out too well.
That's a bad idea. The last thing you want to do is, in order to try to look at just past performance to try to dictate how you should be invested. What you want to do is you want to take the appropriate amount of risk and look at how much downside you're able to handle and how much risk you're able to take on, and that's going to keep you on track for your goals. Looking back and seeing what the markets did last year and saying, well, I'm going to go more aggressive now because of what the markets did last year, is probably one of the worst things you can do. You want to make sure you're managing the risk appropriately, and that's what we do for our clients. And so given what I just said, we are in the second longest bull market we've ever been in. We're getting close to the longest bull market we've ever been in. But with that being said, we are due for something. And I'm not trying to scare people, but I don't know if it's this year, next year, the year after. But you need to be prepared and understand how much risk you're taking before the fact of experiencing like another '08, for example. And we actually have software we can actually demonstrate that, where we can take your current comfort level, current risk number, and plug in your investments without moving assets and show you exactly how much risk you're taking relative to what your comfort level is, and show you what the difference is, and then back test it and show you how much you would lose if you stayed invested the way you currently are if we had a correction.
Well, that's just it. Everybody knows that there's something that's going to happen at some point, but nobody knows exactly when. And it would be nice to have a crystal ball. I know that.
It would make my job easier, that's for sure.
A lot of folks are certainly, you piqued their interest today, and they'd like to come in and have a conversation with you, Mark. What happens during that initial visit in your office?
Well, whether you're a first-time listener to the show, you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation with me, to go through this process we call the financial physical. And I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we will discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of this financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. And this will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as I'm sure you're aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP, such as myself, can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. This is a great way to get the new year started off right. So we do try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Would you like to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman? 520-333-7601 is the number to call to make it happen. 520-333-7601. Call or text, and you can come in, have a conversation about your specific situation. And there's no cookie-cutter solution when it comes to retirement planning. Everybody's situation is different. Mark can throw out all kinds of good ideas here on the radio and give you lots of things to think about, but can't really give you specific advice without knowing more about your situation. So you can make that happen by calling 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, the founder and managing member of Silverman and Associates in Tucson, and folks coming in all over southern Arizona to come in and have a conversation with Mark, and you'll be glad you did. Go ahead and make that phone call. More coming up on today's edition of Saving with Silverman.
It's time to get to know Mark Silverman just a little bit better here on Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman. Hello there, I'm Ron Stutz, and we're glad that you are with us today. And this is our Getting to Know You segment. And Mark, let me ask you a question here. What is special to you about the place where you grew up? First of all, where did you grow up? And second of all, what makes it so special?
I grew up in the lovely town of Tucson, Arizona.
Aha. So you haven't moved
so
very far.
It's so special, I've never left.
Fantastic. What makes Tucson so special?
It's a great place. All my family's here. So, having that said, weather-wise, I think it's hard to beat here. We don't have, and I know you're in North Carolina. I think you guys are getting snow or about to get snow.
Yep.
And so we don't have to deal with that. We don't have, all the horrible stuff that's been going on in California with the weather and mudslides, earthquakes, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it gets hot here in the summer, but that's about it. Other than that, we have nothing really to complain about. So everybody seems to be moving to Arizona. So why would I leave?
Yeah.
But it's a great place, to raise a family, et cetera. The cost of living is still reasonable. We have our issues in certain things. Our roads are not in great shape, but we don't have a freeway system, that sort of thing. But other than that, it's still a great place to be from and to grow up and to run a business, certainly.
Well, apparently a lot of people agree with you because so many folks are retiring to Arizona all the time, right?
And we deal a lot with retirees, so it works well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, there you go, folks. That is our Getting to Know You segment for today. Mark Silverman, Tucsonian, always a Tucsonian, and still there, grew up there, and just happy to be there with you. And I hope you will get in touch with Mark Silverman at Silverman & Associates. There's more coming up on today's show in just a moment.
Have you ever heard that story about the grasshopper and the ant? The one where the grasshopper fails to plan in the spring and almost starves to death in the winter? Learn from that. Don't wait until it's too late to get your finances in order. Start your path to a rewarding retirement today. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman, Silverman & Associates. Go to savingwithsilverman.com if you'd like to find out more about Mark. Mark's the guy who's on the radio every single week here in Tucson, savingwithsilverman.com. The all-important phone number. You can call or text this number right now. Leave a message and leave either a voicemail message or a text message, and Mark's team will get back with you, and you can come in very soon and have a conversation with Mark about your financial situation. No obligation, no cost. 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. As I said, call or text. A lot of people are more comfortable texting these days, and that's fine too. 520-333-7601. Well, we have talked about some really interesting things on today's show already. Let's talk about your biggest assets. If you really took inventory of your financial situation, you might find that you've been taking for granted some assets that make up a huge piece of your financial puzzle. Is it possible you should be putting a little more thought into some of these assets? Mark, how about your 401k?
Again, this applies to 401ks, 403bs, thrift savings plans, TSPs, 457 plans, whatever type of company retirement plan that you have. But yeah, you should, because a lot of people, this is usually their biggest investable asset account is typically their 401k. And so you should be making sure that the risk matches your tolerance and your goals and objectives, making sure the investments are appropriate, making sure that you're rebalancing it on a regular basis. Some companies do offer a service where you can pay and they'll rebalance it for you. That's something we do with our clients, but it's important that you make sure that you're allocated properly. You don't have too much of your company stock. If you do, you might want to have some of it in there, but you don't want to put all of it into one company stock. But just making sure that you have the right mix is important to do, and it's good to review this on a regular basis. Most people don't. They're just putting money away. Sometimes they don't even know how much they're putting away. Sometimes they're not even sure if they're getting the matches or not. So you want to make sure you're at least getting the matches. And as I said earlier, you want to make sure that you can max out as much as you can and just keep bumping it up more and more until you're maxing it out. And so you'll have enough money saved. So hopefully you can do all the things that you want to do in retirement and not be short.
Well, Mark, most people, the biggest asset they have is their house. It may be the biggest payment they make, and I would assume that it would make sense to pay a little more attention to that, and perhaps you can work yourself into a better situation.
Yeah, and we get all sorts of different clients. We have clients that want to keep the house when they do retire. We have others that want to downsize, or they want to maybe get something smaller and maybe get another home somewhere else, maybe up north or whatever it might be. So it just depends on what you're looking at doing. Some people want to have the house paid off before they retire. Some people plan on keeping a mortgage and retire. It's all about creating cash flow, so we could work either way. It's just a matter of what you've saved and how much cash flow you have coming in, and so it's just solving that equation. But, everybody's situation is different, but it's something you need to put some thought into, and if you haven't, it's important to speak with somebody that can guide you and give you some pointers to make sure that you're doing all that you can. And the more time that you have and before you have to make that sort of decision, the better off you're going to be. The less time, the less options you do have.
We're always talking about maximizing your opportunities on this show, and a lot of people don't really put a lot of thought into this, but your Social Security, that's one where you really need to make the right decision before you go into it.
It really is, Ron. For most people, including myself, this is the only type of pension that we'll ever have. So you want to make sure that you're maximizing it. The good news is we have software that we use with our clients where we can actually put in your benefit amounts and show you the different ages as far as, if you took it early at 62 or you took it at full retirement, which for most people is somewhere between, 66 or 67, or versus waiting to age 70, which is where it maxes out. The benefit is each year you wait, you're getting 8% compounded guaranteed. There's no other place out there right now that I know of that gets you 8%, a true 8%. I know they say there's annuities out there that are doing it, but that's not the case. I'm telling you that right now. But a true 8% guaranteed growth of that payment is guaranteed. And the only place you get that is through the government. But a lot of it comes down to life expectancy. So if we can get a good idea as far as what your life expectancy might be, it makes it an easier decision, and we can actually illustrate it with the software that we have.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman. 520-333-7601. Your number to call or text, 520-333-7601. Write it down if you haven't already, 520-333-7601. We're talking about your biggest assets, and another one is your future savings potential. That's something that you really need to spend a lot of time on, and certainly Mark Silverman, as your certified financial planner professional, can help you do that.
Yeah, for people that are still working, I think it's important that you get in the habit of saving. The sooner you can do it, the better. But, in all reality, we talked about procrastination earlier. A lot of people don't really get into being serious about saving until maybe they're 50, 55. Sometimes it's even later than that. So you have a lot of making up to do. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but you really got to be diligent about saving, which means you're putting away a bit and you're saving as much as you possibly can. If you had already been in the habit of saving, it's a lot easier, I can tell you that. But, you can't kick yourself for woulda, coulda, shoulda. You need to worry about where you are now and what decisions you make going forward. So it's important that you know where you stand, how much you want to retire with, and when you want to retire, and see what those numbers look like. And that's why we take a planning-based approach rather than just trying to sell products to people, which may or may not help them, but really getting a clear view as far as assessing your situation and saying, here's where you are, here's where you want to be, are you on track or not? And what can you do if you're not on track, and what kind of trade-offs you're willing to make to get to that point.
Mark, I know that a lot of people are fortunate in that they have a bunch of smaller accounts out there. Some, unbelievably, they may have completely forgotten about.
Yeah, and we're big fans of simplifying things. So when we take on clients, we'll encourage people to consolidate wherever we can. If you are married and you and your spouse have an IRA account, you can't combine those accounts. But if you have an old 401k and you have an IRA and things like that under your name, we can combine those sorts of accounts. A lot of people have things scattered all over the place. And one, it doesn't give you a clear picture of what you really have. Two, it's hard to diversify it because you don't really look at all these different accounts as in the whole picture of one household. And so that kind of makes it difficult too. And then three, it's keeping track of these things. If you move or those sorts of things, you have to let all these companies know. And then when you have to start taking required minimum distributions at age 70 and a half from these accounts, you need to calculate what that's going to be with all these different accounts. So we're big fans of keeping it simple. There's lots of benefits to doing that. And we're here to help and show you why that makes a lot of sense. And keeping it simple sometimes, helps everybody, not just you, but also your children. When you get older and pass away and your kids have to take over this stuff, keeping it simple for them is a big benefit too.
Mark, there are lots of people out there listening to the show today, I'm sure, who may have a bunch of smaller accounts out there, and perhaps they have 401k they need to spend some time thinking about, and maybe even their house. They need to think about what they're going to do with it and how they can maximize their opportunities all the way around. And so they're finally going to get around to making that phone call to your office. What happens when they give you a call and you set up a time to get together?
Well, whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process we call the financial physical. And you actually do meet with me. I don't pawn you off on somebody else like some of the other shows. I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we will discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly, so I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. And like I said, we're already booking into January. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Come into Tucson and have a conversation with Mark Silverman. The way to make that happen is 520-333-7601. Call that number, or you can send a text to that number with your contact information, 520-333-7601. It's important to point out that when you do come in for that conversation, you're under no obligation. You may decide to walk away. You may decide that you don't want Mark Silverman's help, and if so, that's okay as well. You'll come out of it with a lot more information than you had going in. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. That'll put you in touch with Silverman and Associates in Tucson. And, of course, Mark has people coming in all the time from all over southern Arizona. He is a certified financial planner, professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates. And Mark and I will be back in just a moment with more on today's edition of Saving with Silverman.
Mark Silverman is a lifelong Arizonan, and his firm is based right here in Tucson. When you come in for a visit, you can expect someone who's familiar with your community. At Silverman and Associates, our relationship with you is most important to us. We want to build you a financial plan that's unique to your goals. No generic products, no corporate red tape, just friendly folks looking to give you a comprehensive approach to retirement planning. Come in for a visit today and let us help you build a meaningful retirement. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
If you've ever asked yourself what a well-balanced financial portfolio looks like, keep listening to Saving with Silverman, and you'll find out.
Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates, and you're listening to Saving with Silverman, the radio show that helps you get ready for retirement. Make sure that you can sleep well at night and not have to lie awake wondering if you're going to outlive your money. It is time for story time, and Mark's been doing this for a very long time. He's got lots of stories, but Mark, let me just ask you to narrow it down to just one here in the interest of time. Tell us about a time when you've coordinated with other professionals, like perhaps a CPA and or an estate planning attorney, to get a comprehensive plan put together for a client.
Well, Ron, we do that all the time. So if clients have CPAs that they're working with, we will work with them on our clients' behalf to make sure that we're giving them the right advice and making the right decisions, whether we're working one-on-one with the CPA or the clients want to be involved in that conversation as well. We will do that. Same thing is true with estate planning attorneys. We will work with our clients' estate planning attorneys if they have those people. If they don't, I think what makes us unique is I work with other professionals. So I have people that I know and trust here in Tucson that I know do a good job. But I think what, again, makes us unique is the fact that if our clients, if we make those referrals out to these other professionals, we are not compensated whether we do business with them, if somebody does business with them or not. They're separate businesses. They're just people, like I said, that I know and trust, and I know they do good work. But again, we're not compensated. So I think it keeps it so it's fair and objective. And so we're always looking for good professionals to work with our clients. So with that being said, again, we'll work with our clients' professionals if they have those. If they don't, we'll make referrals out to these other people, and we certainly have to give them names so they could interview them and find the right fit as well. But, that happens all the time. That's part of the financial planning process, is getting these other professionals involved. And so we can give them the right advice and, again, help making the right decisions.
Well, Mark Silverman is a very adaptable kind of guy and flexible and a nice guy. So that's why I think it's so important to go ahead and give him a call and come in and have a conversation with Mark. And we'll give you that number in just a few minutes here on Saving with Silverman. Thanks for listening. More coming up.
When you reflect on your life, what would you like to see as your fondest memories? Summers at your favorite vacation spot? Ice cream with the grandkids after their first t-ball game? Maybe it was your great adventure across the world or volunteering with a local nonprofit. Of course, those memories are still in the future, although they're not as far away as you might think. Be sure you have a financial plan to make them happen. Don't find yourself worrying while enjoying that ice cream. Peace of mind is attainable in your retirement. With the proper planning, you can secure a meaningful retirement. At Silverman & Associates, we can help you make those dreams a reality. Schedule your visit with our team today. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. We want to make memories with you. Get started by calling or texting 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
Extra, read all about it.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here along with the amazing Mark Silverman. Mark's on the radio every single week talking about a lot of interesting things having to do with financial matters. And, of course, he can give you lots of good generic advice here on the radio, but can't really get specific without knowing more about your unique situation. And we're all different. This is the portion of the show we call In the News. And a very serious question here, Mark. The Fed decided to raise interest rates by 0.25% in December. What does this mean for your clients and investors in general?
Well, they've raised interest rates a few times so far, and rates keep coming back down. So the market's going to be where the market's going to be. And so with the way the stock market is, rates do need to come up because the stock market's competing with the bond market or interest rates. And more people seem like they're more excited about the stock market because of where we are. It's been a bull market for the last over 9 years now, second longest bull market we've ever had. Doesn't mean you should put all of your money in the stock market, depending on where you are. If you're younger, maybe you should. But if for most investors, if they're within a few years of retirement or in retirement, you probably don't want to have all your money in the stock market. You want to have a mixture of different asset classes, including bonds and various types of bonds. And so, what's going to happen if they do raise rates? Initially, you might see some more people that are buying bonds, which overall, that means you get a higher interest rate on those bonds. If you already own those bonds, the value of those bonds can go down temporarily. And if rates do come back down, then those bonds go back up, and which was what we've seen. So the answer to the question is, who knows what's going to happen eventually, because rates are going to kind of go where they want to be, and the Fed will keep raising them. But if they keep going down, that's just the way it is. But that's what we're fighting with. And rates are still historically very, very low. But that's not the reason why you're buying bonds. You're buying it for diversification and protection and having that sort of mix. So we'll see, but it should be interesting the final year and see what happens next year, see if this run continues.
That is In the News on today's edition of Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz. Mark Silverman and I will be back right after this quick timeout.
Life is complicated. It's full of twists and turns and complex issues. The last things you need when planning your financial future are confusing numbers and advisors who just offer you a sales pitch. We believe there's a simpler way to invest. Your financial plan should be built on a plan that's made just for you. It's all about discovering your goals and designing a strategy that will help you get where you want to go. And don't worry, we'll track your progress along the way. Stop wandering your way through your investing life. Come in for a visit today. To schedule a visit, call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
Picture this. Your financial statements have come in the mail. What's going through your head as you open them up? Maybe all that financial jargon is flustering. Maybe the numbers are confusing, or maybe those red arrows are leaving you in a funk. Don't base your future on a monthly letter. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman. Learn what true financial planning really looks like.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman, often imitated but never duplicated. Nobody quite like him on the radio with all the radio shows here in Tucson. 520-333-7601 is your number to call. 520-333-7601. It's important to point out that when you come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman, there's no salesmanship involved. There's no high pressure. He's not going to try to put you into a certain product. All this is an assessment, an opportunity opportunity to get to know Mark. He can have the opportunity to get to know you. And Mark can help you put together a plan. And the financial physical is what it's called. And to show you where you are and, wherever you want to go, he can show you how to get there. Mark Silverman, 520-333-7601. Time to go to the request line. We always get great questions from our listeners. And today we have a question from Steve, who lives in Tucson. Steve says, we had kids later in life than most people, so they will still be in college when we're ready to retire. Should we just make them get student loans instead of trying to come up with the money to pay tuition after we're already retired?
Well, Steve, great question. It's up to you, whatever you do. I mean, I have clients that have done it either way, where they will make the students be responsible, their children, for paying their own way through college. Certainly respect that. There's others that want to pay for their education. And so I think, it's really up to you what makes the most sense for you and what's going to work for them as well. There's lots of scholarships and Pell Grants, and there's lots of things out there. So hopefully, if they're good students or if they look around, there might be some opportunity for some funds that they could get that they may not be aware of. And certainly that's a great opportunity. So it just depends on what you want to do. It's how you feel about that, whether you want to pay for their education or not, is what it comes down to.
Another question here from Carl in Green Valley. Carl says, is it wise for me to own some gold in my portfolio? What percentage is appropriate?
Well, there's lots, we haven't had the gold question in a while, but, should you buy gold, silver, precious metals? I don't think it's a horrible idea to do that. I wouldn't put more than 5%, maybe at most 10% of your portfolio into something like that. I know the cryptocurrencies, I think we had that question a couple weeks ago, which is, the Bitcoin, that sort of thing. People talk about that as well. I wouldn't put too much into those sorts of things. I'd say, no more than 10% at most. If you want to put 5, I think that's reasonable. If you don't want to do any at all, you don't have to, but I wouldn't do any more than that.
Okay. And one more question today from the request line. Great questions today. Thanks to Carl and Steve. We have a question here from Laura, who lives in Catalina. Laura says, I'm convinced that the market will crash soon, and I'm ready to move everything to cash. Oh boy, how many times have we heard this question? Should I wait?
Well, Laura, we are due for something. As I said earlier, this is the second longest bull market we've ever been in. So we are due, and markets tend to correct about every 5 years as average. We're going on plus 9 years. And so, yes, I would say we are due. However, I wouldn't try to time the market. If you do a reasonable job of managing your risk, understanding what your comfort level is or what your downside you're willing to accept is, and then looking at your overall plan of what your goals and objectives are, whether you're still working or retired, what those needs are, and making sure that those two are aligned, you should be in good shape. You don't want to try to time the market, because if you move to cash doesn't earn anything. So you're going to be losing to inflation. And if this market continues to run for another 2-3 years, you will lose out on that. So I would this is a great time for anybody listening to really look at your risk tolerance and make sure it's appropriate for where you sit right now in relation to your goals.
Well, I'm going to give that phone number again so folks can get in touch in just a moment here. So go ahead and be poised to write it down. What do you have to offer those folks who, like Steve, Carl, perhaps Laura, who want to come in and have a conversation about their questions and get some answers?
Sure, Ron. And first, I want to thank everybody for writing in for the questions. If you go to our website, which is savingwithsilverman.com, click on the radio, submit your question. Maybe you'll get to hear on the show. So I appreciate that. But now's my chance to ask you a question. And can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I mean, I get it. I'm as much friends with so many of my clients. They become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? And I'll repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and risk and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews, but hopefully it's more frequently than that? Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If you are, if all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and truthfully to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601, or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Again, that phone number, 520-333-7601. You can call or text 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Silverman and Associates in Tucson. Mark Silverman, of course, your certified financial planner professional, the founder and managing member of the company, Silverman and Associates, 520-333-7601. If you'd like to find out more about Mark and how he can help you and your family, go to savingwithsilverman.com. That is savingwithsilverman.com. Once again, on the phone number, 520-333-7601. Call or text. That's all you got to do. I'm Ron Stutz, and Mark, it's been a pleasure being with you on the show again today. I have the feeling that you helped a lot of folks out there, and if they'll make that one next step, then you can get together and you can help them some more. But thanks for your time today.
Ron, always happy to be here, and everybody, thanks for taking the time to listen. If we could be of help, please let us know. Thank you.
Join us again next time for the next edition of Saving with Silverman.
Silverman and Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.